Okay. All right. So, Miss Jennifer, introduce yourself to the people,
Yes.
and tell us who
Yeah.
you are, what you do,
Yes. No,
and I'll
not at
go
all.
more into that.
Okay. No, sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Anderson, and I currently work at Warner Bros. Studio. I'm manager within their technical operations department. A lot's going on, as you can imagine, with the various streaming wars, and technology is always on the move. But as I have worked in the technology, corporate spaces, nonprofit spaces, et cetera, I've also had the opportunity to work with entrepreneurs, individuals who are looking to take that next, however they're looking to take that next. Sometimes that next is in their career. Sometimes that next is just something that they're working on personally, whatever that next is. And so over the years, I have found myself at the nexus of uh, strategy, of career development, and of personal
Yeah.
self-development.
Yeah.
And as you know, I've had the opportunity to speak with Mosi. Conversations were coming up about how different people are responding to this pandemic. Some people are on their hustle, some people
Yeah.
are on their rest.
Yes.
And I think that everyone has a prescription that they need to follow. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing that we have to watch for, one thing that I have heard from people is this, that the pressure, right? The pressure to become something new, the
Right.
fear of what we're leaving behind, having to work remotely all of a sudden, business models changing, etc. People
Mm-hmm.
are operating in fear for the
Mm.
pandemic, and especially now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Typically what happens when people start operating in fear, they'll do one of two extremes. And one of those extremes that we're going to chat about today is
Yeah.
when you lose your ability to speak, when you lose your ability to represent yourself in whether a physical space or a digital space.
Okay.
And whether you're on your hustle or whether you're looking to rest and kind of create some boundaries, you're
Mm.
not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to move forward into what the next is for everyone unless you have your voice. So finding your voice is so pivotal in this
Wow.
time.
Wow. I like that you said that, Jennifer, because I had a conversation with someone, I think it was on Friday, and she was admitting to herself that, she is enjoying this time of rest,
Yep.
and how so many things are taking her in a different direction if she should actually rest right now. And so I think that's key in what you said, that like it is for how you're being led at this time,
I think so. I think you know what, typically we get torn when in two different emotional mental directions
Okay.
when there is a mismatch between our behavior and our values.
Mm. Okay.
And so what I would say is, let's take away the idea of either be on your hustle or um or rest. I think the objective here is progress.
Okay.
We need to be progressing,
Okay.
whatever that means. That might mean, you know what, I realize I've been ripping and running and I haven't been taking care of XYZ in my home or for myself.
Okay.
That might mean, wow, that business, I got that stimulus check, and thank God, my finances haven't been so impacted. Maybe I should take a couple $100s and incorporate. It's going
Mm.
to look different for different people because we're different. We're in different
Right.
places in our life. And even in that, there's a pendulum. I don't expect everyone to be on their hustle 7 days a week.
Right.
That's not healthy, right? So I
Right.
think it's being led, but I think being led means being in tune. And
Mm.
so that was one of the first things that I wanted to talk about. It may seem ironic, but the first thing that is important when it comes to finding your voice is actually doing the very opposite. It's not speaking.
Okay.
It's actually being still and getting quiet.
Okay.
And if you pray and connect with, the God that you serve, if it's connecting, understanding where your emotions are and identifying that, it's super key, because finding your voice has everything to do with your identity. And it's extremely difficult to have identity when you haven't been still enough to just know what your baseline is, to know who you are.
Identity.
Yes.
Identity. Wow. So I'm going to say hi to people. Hey, Brittany. Hey, Katrina. And that's okay, Trina. Let me know. Just wave. Let me know. I can hear you loud and clear on Instagram, Jennifer. So this is perfect. And,
Thank God.
I have you on both settings. And wow. Okay. So let me take a step back, because I want the people to understand, finding your identity. Thank you, Trina. Okay, so Trina said she could hear us. And let me go back to Facebook. I see Asia. Hey, Miss Asia, waving at you. Okay. And wow, I want to give you a little personal testimony that some people know, not everyone know. But for me, my pursuit of, at that time, I called it purpose. And what I was looking for in purpose was in 2007. And I felt like I had hit a place of, hey, Christina, I had hit a place of just, there's got to be more to life than just these cubicles, getting up, throwing a kid in the car, throwing the kid into the daycare, hitting the freeway, 5 minutes late, and I was like, there's got to be more to life than just this. And so I remember going on what I thought was finding my purpose at the time. And I believe that I came to a place to understand that you don't actually find purpose, but you understand it. And in that journey, I met a wonderful young lady in Panera Bread. Shout out to Panera Bread. We do like the jalapeno cheddar bagels. And so sometimes people are looking for like this deliverance that's going to come in church. They're looking for this, this next book, next great thing, and always moving to the next thing, not realizing, I believe it's in relationships and cultivating the relationships and just recognizing who has the gift for you or who has something for you. Like, all of it is purpose. So I just want to kind of give that disclaimer to everyone, is like, and let's talk about that, go a little deeper into that identity as people are trying to figure out what to do with stuff that they don't even know what to do next. So I guess that's a lot to unpack.
It is. And I think that's why it can be overwhelming, because it's so nebulous, right? Let's see, let's start with the North Star. Let's start with identity.
Okay.
We're on social media platforms right now. God bless them all, from TikTok to LinkedIn to Facebook to Instagram. It's allowed us to stay connected during this physical distancing.
Yes.
But just like an amazing piece of chocolate cake, you can get too much. And that means a lot from a chocolate lover, okay?
Yes.
Moment of silence for the chocolate cake. All right. So I think the first thing that we find difficult is that there's all this noise, right? There's all this noise.
Yes.
And sometimes we're in the noise because we have fear of missing out. Sometimes we're in the noise because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Okay.
Sometimes we're in the noise because we're afraid of the quiet. Wow. And we're afraid of what we're going to run into in the quiet. Sometimes we know what we'll run into, and sometimes we don't.
Okay.
But we keep running to avoid.
Okay.
And sometimes we think, and I say we on purpose, me included, sometimes we think if we go for the thing, being goal-oriented, we'll be able to capture it. And the sad truth is that even when we get it, we still wouldn't be satisfied. We still wouldn't understand the fullness of the purpose of that thing or that opportunity or that person. And we still walk with less revelation. And because of not knowing how people fit in our lives, we end up making these errors. And then we're trying to figure out what's wrong, right? So there's no judgment here. This pattern we've seen in our lives. Some areas we might have it all together, and some areas we don't. But I think when we start talking about identity, I completely agree. Oftentimes, it's not something that we run directly into, because if we run directly into it and we've never first really identified it within ourselves first, what ends up happening is that we start living for the agenda of other people. We start fitting into other people's plans. We start becoming the victim of opportunity.
Okay.
And yes, that is a thing. And we never take the time to understand, wait, what's important for us? Because in reality, we're in survival mode. We're just trying to have those things that we need for our life. We're trying to have those things that we need, that we think we need emotionally for comfort.
Right.
Trying to have those things for the stature, to compensate for a hole that was never filled before, or a previous hurt.
Wow.
And so that's why when we run into that thing that we thought we always wanted, if it comes without root, if it comes without sitting down and knowing who you are, understanding what you've been made for, and that's a process. This isn't some in and out drive-through thing, right?
Yes.
It's a process that is constantly unpeeled, but in the unpeeling, there's so much beauty. Yeah. There's so much beauty, and there's so much peace. And then as you start to know who you are and the lanes that you want to go in, you feel comfortable saying, no, thank you. And it's not out of retaliation or attitude or whatever. Right. You just know that that opportunity is for something else, because you are firm and secure what is yours. And let me be the first to say, it is quite all right and even exciting if you haven't found that thing within you out there yet. Wow. Because if you haven't found that thing out there yet, typically we'll look out there for some kind of validation, right? Like, oh, I'm on track. I see it before. I'm not crazy, right? Right. But if you have this feeling, this thought, this idea, that's not out there, let that be your validation. Let that be your validation that there's something new and something magnificent in you. And this isn't a whole bunch of, hocus pocus that I'm trying to spit here. This is real. Right? We talk about market saturation all the time, right? Like, is the market too saturated for another t-shirt company, for example? Right. If you're seeing something out there that's a gap, if you're seeing something out there that you can innovate on, that's beautiful. Okay. And if you are a person, such as I'm sure people on this call, who don't just wear one hat. Yes. But multiple hats. You have vision for multiple businesses. You have vision for multiple solutions. Yes. You have ideas for international politics and gluten-free organic. Yes. Right. Who said that they had to cancel one another out? But what that means, what that means is that you're embarking in some new territory. Wow. And that means that you have a message that has not been heard yet. Okay. And that is why it is so critical to be able to find your voice. And not only find your voice, but safeguard that voice. Wow. Let's talk about that, because the process of finding your voice and recognizing that you have contradicting voices around you, and being able to safeguard, like, what are some things that people can put in place, like when they're like, they recognize, you know what, I'm in what we call process, what you may see as a journey. I'm discovering, hey Jeff, hey Amanda, hey Sherelle, hey Mika, what are some guidelines, I guess you could say, for that would be beneficial? Absolutely. I think, sometimes in the midst of all the details, we tend to make things complicated. Okay. And we don't see the pattern of behavior that we can translate from one successful place in our life to another. Okay. Okay. So I'm answering the question, but let's journey a little bit, because I would, instead of just giving a fish, I'd rather teach people how to fish so they can feed themselves. Yes. Hey, Susan. Right?
Yes.
So one of the things that we can all agree on is that we have a place to lay our head.
Yes.
Whether it's our car, whether it's somebody else's home, whether it is our own place. The majority of us have a place to lay our head.
Okay.
And we all understand what safety is,
Okay.
right?
Right.
We would never let someone on fire try to just attack our car, or a horde of people to attack our home and our family, right?
Right.
Now, why is that? Because we have already identified threats.
Okay. Okay.
And that also has to happen for us personally.
Okay.
What are those things that would be a threat to us, our self-care, and our voice? Okay? So one of the things for sure that tends to motivate people on a very basis level is fear. I wish it were love, but that doesn't tend to be the default.
Yeah.
It's fear.
Yeah.
And typically people don't speak up because they are afraid of fill in the blank. Right. Typically, they're afraid of loss. Okay?
Yes.
So one of the things that we have to do that is both a safeguard, okay, as well as identifying the threat, as well as exercising the ability to have your voice,
yes,
is dealing with fear.
Wow.
And you don't deal with fear when you run from it, and you don't deal with fear when you try to suppress it, and you don't deal with fear when you make excuses for it.
Wow.
You gotta call a spade a spade. So before, and that's why I say having your voice really starts with being quiet first, because before you can speak out there and in the boardroom and when you're negotiating about a deal, you've got to first be able to deal with the voices in your head, in our heads, right? We've got to be able to understand the narrative that we're eating on, that we're consuming.
Yeah.
And we're not going to hear those silent voices that make so much impact unless we're quiet. So what does that mean? We've got to identify those things that would try to keep us quiet, right? Toxic relationships, feelings of feeling inferior, whatever those things are, and to understand what's the root of all that. Wow. And the root of all that, I promise you, is a message. It's a thought, right? Perfect example. I'm in the meeting with senior executives, whatever that looks like in your realm. And everyone's throwing around these ideas. You might agree with it, you might not. You have something to add, but you're afraid of looking stupid. You're just grateful that you're in the room, or you're wanting to be in future rooms, so you don't want to make waves.
Okay. Okay.
There comes a point where your growth will be stifled unless you start to stretch, unless you start to be who you are.
Yeah.
Because you'll never reach your highest potential, always abiding to someone else's concept of you. It is okay to evolve. So that's another thing, right? We talked about fear.
Yeah.
We've talked about understanding the narrative that is being said.
Yeah.
And then a side note of fear that I think we have to address is people's opinion of you.
Okay.
I like being nice. That's my default.
Okay.
I like the feeling. I don't like the burden. I don't like the cattiness of anything else. But I also have to understand that kindness and love also looks like when we set boundaries, whether it's for our children or for ourselves.
Can you
so I can have a conversation.
Yes. Kindness and love, because I remember when I learned that love was correction too. Love
Absolutely.
Was too.
Absolutely. I could not imagine a parent loving their child.
And she says, this is excellent. Thank you, Princess. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Hey. I can't imagine anyone who takes care of anything.
Yeah.
A plant, a pet parent, a child, an elder parent, a bicycle, whatever, a home. You wouldn't just let anything happen to it. Why? Because you have already identified what is good and bad.
Yes.
I know that my house is built to be okay in the rain.
Yes.
I'm not going to worry about it.
Yes.
The bicycle, though, probably should come inside because it'll rust eventually.
Yes.
Rain is a threat to a bicycle.
Mm.
Okay, cool. A 3-year-old child may want to splash in a puddle in the backyard. Yes. Physical distancing, we must remember now, right? Okay, backyard, people, backyard.
Right.
Couple of splashes in the backyard. Okay, sure, whatever. Should the child sleep in the backyard for multiple nights without any kind of shelter?
No.
I'm pretty sure we can agree that's a no-no, right? Why? Because we've identified what is good and bad. And so we have to, one, value ourselves, right? And with that value, understand, how am I created? What works for me? What doesn't? Things may be lawful, but not maybe in my best interest, right? I could go to the liquor store right now, buy out the store, bring it all home, and it would be legal, I think. But definitely not healthy if I drank that all today. I would be dead. Alcohol poisoning is real, right? So it's those same principles of, you know what, let me pull myself out of that current situation or situations.
Yes.
Let me quiet the noise.
Yes.
Let me not be afraid of that quiet, because the only person I'm going to meet is me. The real me.
Wow.
Fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And let me understand her or his needs, right? Like my needs. Ooh. And that's going to be an evolving discovery, right? An evolving discovery. And as you discover, you put into those places and you put into those places where you're like, I have not just the right, but the value to speak. And it's going to be a learning process. None of those people in those corner offices got there because they kept their mouth shut. Right. Oprah didn't get there with her mouth being shut. And people are going to challenge you, sometimes in a good way and sometimes in a bad way. Don't be offended. I don't care how old folks are, people are still trying to figure themselves out. And some people like to do.
You're actually saying, like, it is okay. And there are actually, and I'm going to say there are designated periods in your life of discovery. Like, because, I mean, people like, no, I know me. And it's like you're still coming into you in another dimension of you.
How sad would it be to say at 20, 30, 40, 50, I'm done. Right. And you've got another 30, 40, 50 years to live.
Yeah.
No. Make it exciting. Yeah. Learn something new. Learn again. We I know this is slightly off topic. We're trying to figure out why relationships break down, because we're not trying to learn about another person, because we're not trying to learn about ourselves. Wow. Don't be afraid of the beauty that you discover. It's okay.
Yeah. So now I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to go back to talking about loss and recognizing that in this time period there has been some loss.
A lot.
In a physical sense, or maybe a job, or maybe just a sensation, like if you're like me and you're used to going out to eat 2 or 3 times a week and sitting in a place to get served. Like, so acknowledging the loss and overcoming that. What would you say to that, Jennifer?
Wow. Oh, that's such a good question, right? That applies obviously to this pandemic. There's been a lot of different loss, from, like you said, from economic to the sense of normalcy to, for some people, lives, loved ones, right? The question is so great and so beautiful, because it really exposes a life principle that is far beyond the pandemic, far above the pandemic. Just the reach is massive. And that is this: the world, the universe, science principles, most of them do not operate with the concept of voids. Okay? If you dig a hole, as you dig, depending on the structure of the soil, dirt will fill back in. Right?
I see you, Larry. Thank you, Larry.
So it's critical that as we look at loss, one, we don't ignore it.
Okay.
Okay. That some people say, pack it down, girl, and push it. Listen, I am a Black woman. I know what it means to compartmentalize and get the job done. Okay.
Right.
But that doesn't solve anything.
Right.
That just prolongs the inevitable till it eats you from the inside. So just like loss, because that's a fear too. People fear about losing things. I don't want to lose my home. I want to be able to pay my lights, still.
Right.
Loss is real. We have to face loss. We have to mourn loss. And we have to understand the story's not over. That's where the deception is. Now, I personally believe in life after death. I am a Christian. I know we may not talk about religion.
Right. We both are. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Amen.
Okay.
Yes.
But what I know is that even an atheist can say, with all that has happened, life on earth must continue. So the question is now, in the midst of that loss, how do we celebrate the loss in the sense of whom might have left or whatever? Like, that was a part of our life. That was real. Let's honor that. Maybe that's a better word, to honor it.
Honor it, yeah.
How do we move forward being better? Because the fact of the matter is, no matter how we feel, the dates on that calendar keep moving, even though I know weekends are blending into weekdays and vice versa. But the reality is that time is still moving.
Yes.
And so the way how I say we need to deal with loss is, one, I have to reconcile all things with the Father God. Like, I need him to go into places that I don't have the wherewithal to know where I need to go. Okay. But regardless of your beliefs, you got to get quiet, because running and being in the noise won't help you to deal with things. That's one.
So go ahead. And then I got a question for you.
No, I'm just doing a quick recap. And then being able to say, okay, this loss is real. Let's honor it. And then how do we move forward? What do we learn? What do we take forward in the future? Right? It's not over. That's the part that people tend to mourn, because they feel like it's over and they don't know how to get back. And it's real. But no, there is a way. There is a path. But we just have to find it and then keep walking forward as we honor where we've been and not forget it, so that the things that were bad we don't return to. Yes. And the things that were good we can find even better as we move forward.
And that in there is where I want to address, because I believe when you practice getting quiet, you start recognizing what we call as triggers. And if for someone who's like, this may be completely new to them, like they haven't been quiet in 25 years, 40 years. And here they are at this moment in a stillness that they have never experienced intentionally. How do you recognize the signs that you're running away from your quietness and what's calling you to be still and rediscover?
Absolutely. How do you know if you're running? Okay. If you always need to have something on, like television, or if you always need stimuli, whatever that is, TV, on the phone, social media, eating, sugars, whatever, if you're always grabbing something, holding on to something, never being by yourself enough to where you're not even thinking about the list of things that you've got to do today, there's an avoidance happening. And maybe we can use that word, avoidance.
Yes.
We're avoiding something. And guess what? It's natural. There's no shame here.
Right.
There's no shame. Who wants to look at stuff that we've told ourselves is scary? Who wants to look at the true treasure of ourselves? And that's the deception, right? That's what the enemy would love for us to think, that, we don't have to look at ourselves. No, it's from here that all good things come forth, right? We've talked about this, and why I find myself at this nexus of like business strategy and career development in the self is because you can't birth anything that's not already within you.
You hear that? Yes. Yes.
And it's so critical as I've worked with people and we talk about, the opportunities to level up or to change this or innovate that, we inevitably, usually the first conversation, run into what are the blockers.
Yeah.
And the blockers usually is not some man or some woman on the outside. Usually not.
Right.
It's
Right.
stuff in here. It's stuff up here.
Right.
And we've got to move that away. And that happens when we stop avoiding. So that was one thing. How do you know if you're avoiding? If you're afraid to be alone with your thoughts, if it's hard for you to be still. So a solution that you can do for that, it's something I do. I tend to do when I get kind of keyed up. I'll walk around the house just talking out loud. Because sometimes when I'm really keyed up, it's hard to physically be still, right? So I'll burn some energy and walk or exercise as I'm just like, okay, what is going on with me? I realize I got super upset off that comment. Oh, because they triggered this wound when I was 14 years old. Okay, we need to deal with that wound before I deal with that person. That's an example. What was the second part of the question? Because I missed it. I'm sorry.
Well, hold on real quick. Let me go back to it. And I just want to tell everyone that's watching, thank you on Instagram. Thank you on Facebook. And and this recording will be replayed for 24 hours on Instagram. And then also you'll be able to find it on YouTube on the Compassion in Action channel, and also on my Facebook page, Mosi Odom. So if you have to go, it's okay. And we appreciate you. And so Princess' site to share would be the YouTube channel, Compassion in Action. And then Jennifer, where can they find you? If someone's like, oh my God, I need to just connect with her. Where can they find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at Jen Anderson I Am. So JenAnderSonIam on all social media channels. I'll be the first one to admit I am late to the social media game. That was something that I was personally fearing, had to get over my fear. And so, but you can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, what else we got going on? All that kind of good stuff. And I'm adding content as we speak.
And Princess wants me to make sure, Jennifer Princess says hi. She's on the side. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Okay. So I'm remembering a portion of that question. It'll come to me, but I'm like, okay, wow, this finding your voice is not a sprint. Let's say that. And I think that, I know myself, I've gotten discouraged at different times because I'm like, man, I just felt like I wasn't going anywhere. And then you look up 3 years later and you're remembering a situation and it doesn't sting the way it did the first time it happened. Hey, Alicia, hey, Nakia. It doesn't sting anymore. So let's talk about giving yourself grace.
Yes, I actually had, I was moderating a discussion earlier this month, and we were talking about grace on the subject of should we be hustling or should we be resting?
Yes.
A couple of things, because that in itself is a big topic. I mean, this conversation could be like a couple of hours, right?
Right.
Like series or whatever. But I think that two things I want to caveat as we talk about grace. And it'll be under the context of we need to show ourselves grace, right? But we also need to show grace to others. And let me get into those specifics.
Okay.
So one, we've talked about the voice, our voice, finding the voice, the things that attack our voice. Understanding our values and who we are and who we've been created to be, that is a progressive process.
Yeah.
What I want to say after that is that as we walk out this process, we start to become confident. I think that's a really key word.
Yes.
Confident in who we are and how we've been made.
Okay.
And when that's on the absolute of God's truth, other people's opinions, you can hear it, you can extrapolate any kind of wisdom that might be there, regardless of their delivery.
Right.
Eyebrow raised on purpose.
Yes.
Regardless of their delivery. And then move on knowing that you are walking out the path that is your best life. It may not feel like your best life today.
Right.
But you're on the path of your best life. That's why really being quiet and knowing who you are is so critical, because in whose life are you leading and living if you never know what is truly going on with you? It's just a massive deception and robbery of humanity. if you don't know what's going on with you. And again, a progressive issue. Again, grace. So we're operating in this confidence. We're evolving in our ability to feel free to speak up,
yes,
to offer love, to set some boundaries, whatever that needs to look like, right? And then maybe something happens that we're not expecting. So let's understand, what is grace? Grace is a supernatural endowment of power, but grace is also, some people might define it as second chances, third chances. Oh, I messed up today. Let me pick it up tomorrow.
yes.
Right? And I think that we have to understand, and I think this pandemic has told us, nothing is forever.
Yeah.
Nothing is static. So we need to take every day as a gift. We need to say thank you for the victories that we had. We need to say thank you for the lessons that we've learned in the days that were harder. Today is a new day. I'm going to exercise those muscles to operate in whatever lane I need to operate in. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to take a look at our day at the end, see what we could do better, see how we can help better, see how we can love better, see how we can love ourselves more. And then we go on into the next day.
So one of the things that I'm hearing you say, especially when you hit into muscles, you know, when you go to the gym, people, they have like, I have leg day, I have ab day, I have arm day, you know, and you have designated time periods that you're working muscles. And I think I want to just highlight that fact that we tend to work our external and our physical muscles, and we do not always come in to work our inner, our emotional, our spiritual, our mental muscles. Wow, like I think the acknowledgement of that. And then the other thing I want to acknowledge, because it's just pulling on me, so I don't know who this is for, and it could just be for me. But just, loss is like, it's almost like we're saying, look, it happens. The good thing, depending on what you believe, there's restoration. So it may not come back the way you like. I may have lost my car. I may not get the same exact car that I had in the beginning, but I may actually get an upgrade. And so it's almost like an invitation. Oh, bless God. I feel like loss is like an invitation to what's next and what's better.
Yeah.
And yes, you do have to mourn it, but, or we say honor it. Like, it's okay to let go. And I think I posted this a couple days ago, so we could talk a little bit about that, because even there's times in my journey I'm realizing I'm holding on to something. I'm holding on to, whether it's an attitude, a person, a setup, a design that I'm accustomed to, and everything else is shouting, it's time to let it go. And you're like, but this is what I know.
This is what, it's a comfort, right? And typically what we do, and we're grown-ups here, right? Food, sex, drugs, alcohol, TV, people, we will use them as blankets to cut, weighted blankets. Let's get real specific.
Right.
To cover and comfort ourselves. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be community. Community is key. Please hear me. I'm not talking about anything good and healthy. I'm just talking about the simple principle of anyone who has bushes or a tree or lawn, as luscious as it is, it will deteriorate if you don't trim.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Trimming, pruning is part of the process. But I want to make sure, because this is, you know, people come from different places, have different things. And especially if you're sitting on loss, let's kind of mother hen this a little bit. Let's kind of sit here for a quick second.
Okay.
Loss of life and loss of a car both hurt. But loss of a life is loss of a life. You can't buy another mom.
Right. Right.
You can't buy another dad.
Right.
You can't buy another husband or sister.
Yes.
That's real.
Yeah.
I may get emotional.
That's okay.
That's real, and I get it.
Yeah.
But think of it this way. Love would never cause you to despair forever.
I like that.
You don't honor anyone by staying in the place of mourning, camping there forever. You're going to have those days where you're going to cry. That's healthy.
Yeah.
Let it flow.
Yeah.
But they want the best for you. It's okay. And you don't have to drop everything today, whether it be the loss of the car, the job, the whatever, or the person. But give yourself permission to walk out of that camp of mourning. Start to just pack your little things. Pack light, honey. Pack light.
Okay.
And start the process of moving forward. Because the process of moving forward, when we're talking about loved ones, that does honor them. Let that inspire you to be your best self. Wow. I just want to resonate with some folks right there. Okay. And when we're talking about layoffs and whatnot, you're not talking to someone who's lived in some ivory tower her whole life. I know what a layoff looks like.
Right.
A layoff with children, no other income, and no child support.
Get excited.
Get excited.
Right.
So when I say these things to you, it's not just to hype folks. I am laying out a path for deliverance.
Yeah.
And where we choose to have our mind and how we choose to identify and what we're willing to speak up on will dictate where you go, because God can move all the pieces.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to go through the open door, if you're not willing to say, hey, I want the 160K versus that 125 you were offering, you limit yourself. Now, the caveats, I think I talked about that. There's wisdom.
Yes.
Right? There's wisdom that we need to operate in.
Yeah.
There is work that we need to do on our part. There is studying, there is effort, there is etc. Right? So there, I don't think anyone here is expecting things to fall into their lap. So if we can believe that we have to be on our hustle and work for certain things, we have to value ourselves, that our spiritual self, our mental self, our psychological self needs work as well.
Yeah.
And the difference between the Jay-Z's and the Oprahs and the Obamas and all these other people out there looking at them, wishing that they were, is nothing but a mindset. It's how you see things.
Yes.
And I can promise you, people respect it when you set boundaries. And those who don't respect the boundaries you set, that is a red flag for something toxic. And you don't need to put resources in a bucket with a hole in it.
You don't need to put resources in a bucket with a hole in it.
And you can love something. And you can love people. I'm not saying start lighting bridges on fire and start destroying bridges. What I'm saying is you see those toxic situations, and maybe we need to get into that, where this situation isn't for my best, this whatever, I don't feel comfortable. You've got to do the work first before you start pointing blame elsewhere. Because trust me, the situation you're in, the experiences that you're having, I'm thinking about stuff in my own life, are also because of choices I made. Yeah. Where I was afraid to speak up. I'm not even speaking metaphorically right now, where I was afraid to speak up, where I was afraid to say something, where I said, maybe they won't like me anymore if I say they should do X, Y, and Z. And I had to change the narrative. I had to say, wait a minute, I'm not here on accident. And you are not here on accident, regardless of how your parents got together. Number one, I'm not here on accident. I have something to offer based on my skills, experiences, thoughts, whatever. This is what I'm thinking, and I offer it as a gift. XYZ person has the opportunity to take it or not.
Yes.
But I'm not going to shrink because I'm afraid. If someone doesn't take it well and I delivered it well, then love you. It's okay. I need you to know I love you. If you don't take it, that's all right. But I have to give you my best self, because I'm going to operate in the fullness of who I am today, which might look later from a month from now, because I'm always expanding and growing.
Mm. Let's talk about you talked about choices, but also let's talk about cycles, because there are times that you find yourself, like, if you don't deal in a matter of your life and you find yourself in a cyclical vision, same situation, different person, different job, but everything's still the same. And even as I've even in there, the cycle of when you're leveling up, you're still going around, you're just at a different level of it. Let's talk. Can you talk to that a little bit to the people?
Absolutely. I think we need to understand that cycles, and
Mm-hmm.
good or bad,
Yeah.
are the result of default setting.
Yes. Mm.
What are those choices, mindsets that we default in and we do?
Mm.
1 + 1 = 2, right? If I don't wash my hair for a week, we're going to have very unbecoming locks. Okay? Do that for a couple more weeks, locks are going to grow, and
Yeah.
it won't be cute like it's beautiful on some other folks. Okay?
Right.
So we have to understand that cycles happen because of a default setting. That's why we're talking about being able to change that narrative. Like, what am I thinking? Why am I responding that way? That person's trying to love me and I keep pushing them away. Oh, there's something going on in the thought process.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm going to get dropped. I'm afraid I'm going to do this. I'm telling you, most of it, if not all of it, is rooted in fear. Okay? So being able to understand those cycles,
Right,
is critical. And I would say you can start identifying your cycles when you can identify your triggers. I'll use myself as an example. I remember it was 2006 and I'm doing all this stuff. I realize I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm trying to keep the house clean. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And before I know it, I snap and I blow up. And in God's good grace, I feel in my spirit, Jen, you're overwhelmed. And to me, overwhelmed wasn't an option, honey. That was just an adjective. When folks need to get stuff done, we need to get stuff done. Overwhelmed, it's no, sorry. And I had to walked through a process of what are my signs that I'm starting to break down. Okay. My signs are when dishes start piling up in the sink. It's as practical as that. Wait a minute, why can't I put my makeup from the counter back into the bag? Or what does the state of my car look like, right? People have different things that tend to get disorderly before others, okay? Me, it's a dish in the sink. It's dishes in the sink for more than a day or two. And I have to know, oh, wait a minute, if I don't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with that, what's been leaching off of me? What have I been giving my energy to? Because if I'm stressed out worrying about something, you're losing energy. You're losing the capability of doing something else, right? So I think that we have to understanding our cycles is understanding our defaults. Understanding our defaults is understanding our triggers. And understanding our triggers means understanding us.
Yes.
How are we wired? Yes. What are those things that we see when we start to break down? What are those things that we understand that we actually need in order to be successful from a spiritual, emotional, psychological level, whatever? Yeah. We're not going to have all those answers today. No one's asking, but there's some things you do know.
Yes. And April saying she can relate to the dishes in the sink and overwhelm. And
yes.
I mean, I have several. One of them.
Oh, we all have several. Let's just keep it real. I just talked about my dishes in the sink.
And, you know, but some of it, what I learned, I'm going to be honest, I'll be transparent with everyone. One of the things I learned that is actually helpful in this period is I would have leftover food in the refrigerator from somewhere I went to go buy food. Like I would go out getting food and I wouldn't finish what else was in there. And I look up at the end of the week and I got 7 bags of food that I spent probably a couple $100 on. And it's like, oh, wait, Mosey's having a moment. Come back to the middle. What's going on?
Absolutely. Same thing here. In fact, I got to the point now where I'm like, I want some red velvet cake right now from Porto's. Oh, wait a minute. I don't feel good. I want to be comforted right now.
Yeah.
Let's deal with that. I didn't say I won't get the cake. I just said, let's deal with that.
Yep.
And then, oh, you know what, I'm good. I just wanted a little, I do have a little sweet tooth. Let me go get a bowl of cereal, a little bowl of ice cream versus me like downing a whole cake,
Wow.
right?
Right.
And I think that that's real. We as humans will fill holes. Remember that.
Yeah.
We will fill empty spaces. And that's not necessarily wrong. We just have to fill them with good things, because whatever we plant will grow.
And so, Jennifer, I think that's a good transition. We have about 3 minutes left on Instagram, and I want to definitely respect your time. And I want to say thank you,
Oh.
and give acknowledgement, as you said. We as humans would tend to fill our voids, and there's good opportunities to do so, like watching this live, watching this replay, tuning in and checking in. And then there's some not so good ways that may look like, food, sex, drugs, alcohol, etc. So I want to say thank you to people for tuning in, because this is what this is for. These are, it's like meat for you. Like, take this, store it, eat it, and watch your life just continue to blossom. So Jennifer, anything you want to add to let the people know that maybe we didn't touch on, or and I'm not rushing you. We got a countdown on.
No. I get the countdown, girl. If you have to put up fingers, please do. I think to just bring it all full circle, finding your voice is really finding you. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you find something that you treasure, you're going to steward it. You're going to take care of it, whether that's your boat or your car or those rims or the teeth that you just had whitened 2 months ago, or whatever that is. And we ourselves on the inside need that cultivation, nourishing, protection. Yes. And I think that starts when you have your voice. Mm-hmm. So, being able to speak up, being able to share your ideas in a respectful and intelligent way. And then also, as you grow, being able to help safeguard others and bring others up and help them find their voice and who they are. And I would definitely say that in this midst of the pandemic, there has been a lot of loss. We've covered that, right? Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a whole bunch of holes that are there now and that are still becoming. I pray that in those holes, we start filling in voices. Voices of healing, voices of help, voices of empowerment, whether it be in the education industry, in construction, in real estate, in whatever your realm of influence is. Let's fill the space, let's fill the world with healthy voices that lift one another up, that encourage one another, that bring peace to our families and wholeness to ourselves. And that's what I just hope and pray for everyone here listening, that will listen, and everyone out there as well.
I love it. Thank you, Jennifer. Where can we find you again?
Absolutely. So you can find me at all social media handles at Jen Anderson. I am. And again, that's Jen with one N. So JenAnderson, Instagram, Facebook. I haven't done anything on Facebook, LinkedIn, all that kind of good stuff.
And you'll be able to see this recording live for the next 24 hours on Instagram, and it will definitely be on my Facebook page, and also Compassion in Action, all caps in action, on YouTube. You will see it uploaded later on this week. And as we part, Jennifer, from Instagram, but one thing I wanted to make sure that we typed into on this recording are for the people who are giving themselves permission to rest, and those that are actually being steered in a new direction. Balancing, I guess staying in your lane. Can we just touch on that as we close out?
Absolutely. I think that lanes are being redefined right now, right? Lanes are being redefined, and we have to understand that we are complex, comprehensive human beings. We need rest and work. Mm. If you don't work, your muscles become too relaxed.
Yes.
And they don't keep their form. Yes. And if we work too much, we can have burnout. Mm. So I think it's about understanding It's not taking the diet and the actions of the masses, but
Yes.
what is going on with you
Yes.
and what do you need? And I believe it is a myriad of things that are necessary
Right.
and a custom prescription that is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what is critical in this time is that no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
we come out changed,
Mm-hmm.
that we are progressing in something, whether it's out and it's like, oh, hey, I was able to produce this, and this, or if the progress is deep.
Right.
I learned this about myself. I started facing those childhood issues.
Yeah.
I reconciled with my parent, or at least I'm considering it, right? Mental shifts. Yeah. And I think that as long as we remember the lessons of the pandemic, remember the lessons and learn the lessons in our own personal spheres right now, we'll be better for it. So that could look like work, that could look like rest, but I think that either way, there's progress, and that's the standard we should all be going for.
I like it. I like it. Thank you for your time, Jennifer. Thank you for those who tuned in and who will tune in. Jennifer can be found on all social media platforms. She helps you to find your voice, to get your business in order, to get strategy to your life, to your, and even just, I want to say an analysis of where you are so you can even know where to start. So,
yes.
To check her out, and we love you and we wish you much on this Monday. Enjoy. Thank you, Jennifer.
Bye.
Yes.